The office is a tomb. The fluorescent lights overhead flicker, casting long, dancing shadows across rows of empty desks. Each one is a silent monument to the day that's passed, a day that feels like a lifetime ago. I glance at the clock on the wall. The red digital numbers burn through the gloom. 11:47 p.m. Why am I still here? The project, the deadline, it all seems so insignificant now. The only light, besides the stuttering ceiling panels, comes from the dozens of computer screens, their blue-white glow painting the room in an ethereal, ghostly light. There's a profound silence here, the kind that presses in on you, making your own heartbeat sound like a drum. It's a silence that isn't empty. It feels watchful. Then a sound cuts through the stillness, the distant, familiar ding of the elevator arriving on our floor. I hold my breath, listening. Maybe it's security, doing their nightly rounds. That would be a relief. But the doors slide open and nothing. No one gets out. The doors hang open for a moment, a dark, gaping mouth, before closing again with a soft whoosh. The silence rushes back in, heavier than before. That's when I hear them. Footsteps. A slow, deliberate echo down the main hallway. My own cubicle is tucked away in a corner, out of sight. I stay perfectly still, trying to shrink into my chair. The shadows in the hallway seem to writhe and stretch with the sound, twisting into unfamiliar shapes. A door creaks open somewhere down the hall. A long, drawn-out groan of old hinges. It's the security station. Curiosity, or maybe just sheer terror, forces me to move. I slowly, carefully, peek my head around the partition. The security desk is empty. The guard, a friendly guy named Frank, is nowhere to be seen, but his monitor is on, displaying the feeds from the building's cameras. As I watch, the screen flickers, dissolving into a brief burst of static. When the picture returns, it's the image of the main lobby is distorted. Then, the feed switches to the basement storage room. The light is on. A single, bare bulb hangs from the ceiling, illuminating shelves of forgotten files and old equipment. Primera lea, in closer, squinting at the small screen. Was that a movement? A slow walking sound seems to emanate not from the monitor, but from the air around me. A heavy, labored breathing. A whisper, too faint to make out the words, slithers from the darkness under the desk. My blood runs cold. Suddenly, a chair in the cubicle across from mine rolls back a few inches on its own. It moves with a soft, scraping sound that makes me jump. My heart is hammering against my ribs. Then, the keyboard on that same desk begins to type. Click, clack, click, clack. Letters appear on the screen, forming random, nonsensical words. The screen, which had been in sleep mode, wakes up, its bright light startling in the darkness. The typing stops. The warehouse loading bay door, visible from the large window at the end of the office, slowly rolls open. A blast of cold night air sweeps through the floor, carrying the scent of rain and damp concrete. The red alarm light above the door begins to blink, silently, rhythmically. A metallic clanking sound echoes from the bay, like a heavy chain being dragged across the floor. A tall, slender shadow detaches itself from the darkness of the open door and passes by the window. My own heartbeat is a frantic, deafening rhythm in my ears. The darkness in the corners of the room feels thick, almost solid. This wasn't the first time. The stories had been circulating for months, dismissed as late-night fatigue or overactive imaginations. A night shift nurse at the downtown hospital swore she saw things. She'd be doing her rounds in the quietest wing, the one reserved for long-term recovery. Empty beds, neatly made, but she'd see a curtain move when there was no draft. She'd hear the steady, rhythmic beeping of an IV machine from a room she knew was unoccupied. One night she said she walked past a room and saw a patient sitting up in bed, staring at the wall. But there was no patient assigned to that room. When she backed up to look again, the bed was empty. She felt a presence behind her. The unmistakable feeling of being watched. Catching her own reflection in the polished glass of a framed picture on the wall, she saw a second face, a shadowy, distorted face, looking over her shoulder. She ran, not stopping until she reached the main nurse's station. The door to the wing slammed shut behind her, the sound echoing down the sterile, empty hallway. Then there was the account from the parking garage attendant. He hated the late shift. The vast, multi-level concrete structure was eerie when it was empty. The lights would flicker, casting strange shadows that played tricks on the eyes. One night, a car alarm started blaring on the 3rd level. He went up to check, but there was no one there. The car was locked, undisturbed. As he turned to leave, he heard it. Slow, shuffling footsteps, somewhere in the cavernous space. He couldn't pinpoint the direction. Ekabit, his voice swallowed by the heavy silence. The wind howled through the open sides of the garage, rattling a loose piece of trash across the grimy floor. The footsteps stopped. He stood frozen, listening. He could hear breathing, shallow and ragged, impossibly close. He never saw who or what it was. He just ran. And the old factory on the edge of town, long since abandoned. A group of urban explorers went in one night, documenting the decay. They described the oppressive atmosphere, the corridors lined with old, silent machines and rusted pipes. Steam hissed from a broken valve, even though the boilers had been cold for decades. In the main control room, a single red emergency light pulsed, casting a hellish glow on the dusty panels. As they were filming, a heavy steel door at the end of the corridor began to shake violently, the lock rattling as if someone or something was trying to break it down. They heard a whispering voice, speaking a language they didn't recognize, seeming to come from all directions at once. A wave of intense cold washed over them, and the shaking stopped. A sudden, profound silence fell. A drop so complete it felt like the world had gone deaf. One of them was monitoring a live feed from a security camera they had set up. He zoomed in on the door that had been shaking. There was no one there. Then the monitor glitched, dissolving into static. For a split second, a distorted, shadowy figure flashed on the screen before it went completely black. Just then, every light in the factory went out, plunging them into total, suffocating darkness. They paniqued, scrambling for the emergency exit, its red sign the only point of light in the terrifying void. They heard running steps behind them. They reached the door, pushed the bar, and it was locked. Heavy, deliberate knocking started on the other side of the door. They'd just come through. Then, silence again. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open. The hallway was empty. In the distance, they could see the flashing blue and red lights of a police car. A siren wailed, a welcome, human sound. The police arrived at my office building. Someone must have seen the lights, or maybe the open loading bay door triggered a silent alarm. They found me huddled under my desk, unable to speak. They swarmed the floor, flashlights cutting through the dark. They asked questions, so many questions. What did I see? Who was here? Did I know Frank's whereabouts? I had no answers. There was no one. The tapes from the security office were corrupted, just hours of static. Frank was never found. Officially, he walked off the job. But I know better. The trauma stays with you. Fear becomes a permanent resident in your mind. The memory is a scar that never fades. My workplace, once a familiar, bustling place of productivity, was changed forever. Now, I see it for what it is at night. A hunting ground. The night is no longer a time for rest. It's a nightmare you can't wake up from. Those empty offices, the silent halls, the moving shadows. They're real. The walls whisper. The rooms are cold, and the fear. The fear is forever. I left that job, but it doesn't matter. Every time the lights flicker, every time I hear a strange noise in a quiet house, I'm right back there, at my desk, watching the clock tick past midnight, waiting for the elevator to ding.